You are taking a live look over Rafah right now in Gaza as we do get to the latest out of the Middle East. Israel reopening the Kerem Shalom crossing with the Gaza Strip for the flow of humanitarian aid. And this comes after at least 4 soldiers were killed and 10 others wounded in a rocket strike from Gaza near the crossing over the weekend. Hamas did claim responsibility for the attack, which was reportedly launched from an area near Gaza's Rafah crossing with Egypt. A lot of developments happening pretty recently, I would say, over the last 24 hours or so. So I do want to talk more about all of that. Let's bring in David Mencer, an Israeli government spokesperson, to discuss all of this. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to be here with us, David.
Good to be with you, Josh.
All right, so first off, I do want to talk about what happened at the start of the week. On Monday, we heard Hamas, a spokesperson for them, essentially announce that they had accepted a deal for a ceasefire. We quickly learned from Israel that that was not the deal they had put forward. That one had not been approved by Israel. Are you able to reveal some of the major differences of the two deals?
Yes, of course. So let me update you on the hostage negotiations. You know, the night before last, our War Cabinet held a meeting. As you know, we're having a government of national unity right now, but our War Cabinet unanimously, Josh, it's important to make this point, unanimously to a person, decided that Israel will continue its operation in Rafah in order to apply military pressure on Hamas to release our hostages and achieve all of our war's objectives. Look, Hamas are grandstanding right now. They played a master PR stroke. But the truth of the matter is it always lets Hamas down because their proposal is very far from Israel's core demands. Let me tell you why that is. I'll break it down for you. The key point is, you know, the 3 objectives of this war are that Hamas will be destroyed. We will no longer allow Gaza to be any sort of threat to Israel. And of course, we need to get our 132 hostages out of Gaza. Every moment that they're there is a war crime. But the sticking point is that Hamas want to remain in power. They want to live to fight another day. And of course, we know that Hamas say extremely clearly, they make the point whenever they're asked, they say they want to do October the 7th again and again and again. And we simply will not let that happen. So any deal that leaves Gaza still in power, that leaves Hamas still in power in Rafah is simply not acceptable. Look, nevertheless, we did dispatch a ranking delegation to Egypt to maximize any chance of an agreement on terms acceptable to Israel, but we need to get our hostages out and out of Hamas's hands. So we're following every single lead, every avenue, diplomatic and military, to get our people home. But ultimately, we know this for sure. What's worked in the past is harsh military pressure with this genocidal, murderous, Nazi-style organization. That's the only thing that works. Every moment our hostages are in captivity is a war crime, but we're going to bring them home.
What do you say to those who criticize the Rafah operation and say, this does not need to happen, this should not happen? What do you say to those people?
So look, we make this very simple point. Our effort to uproot the last 4 battalions of Hamas from Rafah is an extremely precise counter-terrorism operation. We're dismantling Hamas terror infrastructure within specific areas of eastern Rafah. Now, we've told Gazans through every means, right, through the radio in Arabic, flyers, the media, internet, text, telephone calls, we're extremely specific about the areas, the streets in eastern Gaza, which they need to move out of. And we'd want them to move to an humanitarian area in Al-Mawasi and Khan Yunis. And there they are currently receiving humanitarian aid, water, food, medical equipment, and shelter. We simply make this point to all of our friends around the world, whether in Washington, D.C. or anywhere else in the world where there are friends. We ask this simple question: what would you do? What would any country do that was invaded by a genocidal terrorist force that has the express mission to annihilate my people. Maybe some people in the past haven't been listening to Hamas, but we here in Israel, when an evil dictator, when an evil terrorist regime says that they want to annihilate us, look, Josh, we believe them. We think they're telling the truth, and that is why we're moving very harshly against Hamas. We've made the decision we will no longer live next to this genocidal organization.
The IDF and Israel saying that the Hamas terror group has attacked the Kerem Shalom crossing area twice in really a matter of days. So I just want to know, what does that say to you overall, but also has it impacted the flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza?
Look, Kerem Shalom is the main artery whereby aid comes into Gaza. Now, it's in our interests to make sure that Gazans know, ordinary Gazans know, that our fight is not with them, it's with the terrorists of Hamas. Now, what Hamas tried to do is they bombed, they rocketed, they shelled Kerem Shalom. They killed 4 of our young soldiers, each one of them 18 and 19 years old, a catastrophe for our people. But nevertheless, we're determined to get that aid in. We've reopened the crossing, and we also know that our intelligence is very clearly showing that the Rafah crossing, very, very nearby with Egypt, in eastern Rafah, was being used for terrorist purposes. But our troops have now obtained operational control of the Gazan side of that crossing, and we know that underneath that large border infrastructure, there are many cross-border underground smuggling tunnels, and those tunnels are sustaining and providing a lifeline to Hamas, which is why we must destroy these tunnels. We must deal with them. We've got to shut off the arms to this genocidal terrorist organization. And we're also a little bit surprised that UNRWA, who unfortunately we've said so many times are just the front for Hamas, you know, they're also advising Gazans not to heed our call to get out of harm's way. They're advising them to stay. Yet another example of UNRWA and Hamas working hand in hand.
My last question here for you. We talk a lot about Israel and Hamas, but I also want to discuss Israel and Hezbollah, because a lot of people don't necessarily realize that the attacks are coming on northern Israel pretty much on a daily basis there. So my question for you, is Israel essentially at war with Hezbollah as well?
Look, I think in any other part of the world, it would be called a war, what's happening on our northern border. There are 60,000 Israelis who are displaced from our north. Those people need to come home. I've met many of them. They tell very sad stories of being out of their home for 7 months now. No country would put up with their borders being facing so much aggression from Hezbollah. It's Iran, of course. We know that Iran controls Hezbollah. They're continuing to rain rockets down on us, but we are as well striking all the sources of those rockets. We've had a very impressive impact against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. We think that we've killed almost all of the top leadership of Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, and UN resolutions are extremely clear on this point. They say that Hezbollah must be pushed behind the Litani River. We want that to happen diplomatically. I'll say that very clearly. We don't want another front in this war. But if those discussions go nowhere, we are prepared to push Hezbollah right back. We've done it before. We will do it again. We've shown what we can do to Hamas in Rafah, where we've destroyed, Hamas in Gaza, where we've destroyed more than 3/4 of the Hamas battalions. We can push Hezbollah back militarily, but we prefer to do this diplomatically. If it doesn't work, we will be forced to carry out the destruction of Hezbollah in southern Lebanon.
All right. David Mencer there, Israeli government spokesperson. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. Is there anything else you want to add before I let you go?
Yes, there is. Look, I know that in the US things are difficult, especially on college campuses, but all of us here in Israel really appreciate the, I think, 80% support which Israelis have to defeat Hamas in Gaza. We know it's very heartening that despite what's happening in the day-to-day, to and fro of what's happening in the news every day, we know that the American people are very much behind us with large percentage. I mentioned 80%. That's our latest polling. We're extremely grateful. Sometimes it feels like we're alone in Israel, once again battling against the many enemies we have surrounding us, but knowing that so many in the US, cross-party, bipartisan, still support Israel, have Israel's back, is extremely, extremely heartening to us, and we appreciate it.
All right, David, thank you again for taking the time to be here with us. We appreciate it.
Good to be with you, Josh. Thank you very much.